I'd like to welcome this bill. I'd like to welcome the fact that the rural independents are calling for a beef regulator, because the fact of the matter is the beef industry in this country is a national disgrace. We have a system which is built on the poverty and the misery of tens of thousands of beef farmers in this country. We have many markets in this country that are dysfunctional. I think of housing, I think of insurance, and I'm definitely thinking of the beef sector. We have an oligopoly, an oligopoly where a small amount of factories make hundreds of millions of euros of profit on an annual basis, many of that taxed abroad. And yet we have tens of thousands of farmers who are forced to sell their beef at a price below the cost of production to those factories on an annual basis. And we have supermarkets who have big pictures of farmers standing in their fields beside the counter who pretend that they're interested in their corporate responsibility, but they are forcing a price through the market, which means that those farmers are earning below the cost of production. It's an absolute disgrace, and there's a number of reasons for this, I believe. I believe that the government is seriously deficient of economic expertise. I believe that your typical Leaving Cert economics class in this country would contain more economics know-how than the cabinet in this country. Secondly, I also believe that the relationships between some of the governing parties and the factories in this country is too close. It's an incredible thing to think of. I went to the Agricultural Committee in the last Dáil, and the then Fianna Gael chair of that Agricultural Committee said that it was unreasonable to expect a guaranteed price above the cost of production for farmers. And the Fianna Fáil TD at that committee, who is now the Minister for Agriculture, agreed. And that shows you that even the instincts within those political parties is not for a fair price for farmers. We in Aontú brought about a bill called the Equitable Beef Pricing Bill, a bill that seeks to put a floor under the price of beef, just for 1 year, of the cost of production, which would be identified by Teagasc to force the beef factories to properly negotiate with the farmers in relation to a fair price. For the beef sector is an extremely profitable sector. There are three elements to the supply chain: the producers, the farmers, the factories, and the supermarkets. But the profits are located in the two latter elements of that supply chain and are being taken away from farmers. And as a result, every year, farmers are leaving the land. We have a situation where Teagasc reckoned that only 37% of farmers in this country are actually independently able to make a living off the farms. Another 35% are only still in farming because they are working off the farm to make sure that they can earn a living. And 30% of farmers in this country are making a loss and going into debt because of the economic structure which exists in the beef sector. Now, I've stood at beef factories, at the gates of beef factories right up and down this country with farmers while they were holding their protests. And they were told that there would be light at the end of the tunnel, that there would be fairness in the production system in this country. But they haven't received it as of yet. And every single day, every week, they're putting in 60 and 70 hours a week's work to finish up with a price below the cost of production. And that's allowed to happen. So I welcome the fact that the rural independents have brought forward this bill. Every tool necessary needs to be brought to bear to make sure that we have proper checks and balances over the beef sector so that all sectors of the supply chain, farmers, factories and supermarkets, can make a fair price for a fair day's work.